Welcome back. Outrage over Yale University students launching an online petition calling on the English department to abolish a required course on classic English literature that includes major poets such as Shakespeare, Chaucer, and T.S. Eliot. They claim that studying white male writers is, quote, a hostile environment. The petition has received about 160 signatures so far of last week, according to the Yale Daily News. Joining us right now is campusreform.org contributor Cabot Phillips. Cabot, good to see you.
Thanks for having me on.
What's your take on this? What the heck is going on universities across the country?
Well, these students said that they feel this course is holding them hostage. And the only thing being held hostage at Yale right now is clearly logic and common sense. And it's a broader problem that goes beyond just the Ivy Leagues and Yale. At Leadership Institute's Campus Reform, we report every day how students and administrations are oftentimes ignoring facts just to push this revisionist version of history, and it's dangerous.
Yeah, and this is coming from students, Dagan.
I said last week that if you pay more than $250,000 to go to Yale, you're basically they're creating ignorant, uneducated bigots, because that's essentially what's happening. Cabot, but why aren't more? Is every student at every university preaching intolerance in the name of tolerance? It's stupefying to think that everybody is on board with this left-wing think.
Well, I think a lot of students are afraid to speak up against this kind of thing for fear of being labeled a bigot. And this kind of logic is so backwards. Imagine if we applied this logic to other areas of society. The NFL, for example. Last year, the top 37 running backs in the NFL were African American. And by this logic, should we tell sports reporters to not cover certain athletes and to cover running backs with far fewer yards and touchdowns just because they're Latino or white? The logic is backwards, and ultimately, these colleges, if they capitulate to these demands, they're not preparing students for the real world and in the workforce. Are these students expecting to be able to walk out of a meeting if they don't see enough people of a certain color in a boardroom or in a conference room? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and what are the implications of this, Kat? I mean, do you hear this from young people? What's wrong with, for example, English poets and
Well, there's all this focus on diversity, and obviously diversity is a good thing, but it's gotten to the point where that's what's most important. If you can find something offensive that's new, like, oh, I noticed that this is insensitive because I'm so culturally sensitive, people, that's like a badge of honor. Like, I'm smarter than you, I'm more culturally literate than you are. How did we not realize all these white men, and this is so unfair? And people are, yeah, absolutely. And the colleges, from what I've seen, are mostly not only compliant in it, but encouraging this. It's like, read the Shakespeare. Come on.
What's wrong with that?
Yeah, Shakespeare, that sexist hack. We've got to wipe him out of our history of literature.
Yeah.
And what kind of message are we sending students, or what kind of message is this sending that they're not studying authors and poets based off of who's the best, right? They're studying them based off of quotas. What's going to happen when these individuals enter the workforce and they think they deserve the job because of their gender or because of their race and not because of merits or because they're the best?
Yeah. What would they like to see, Cabot? I mean, are there areas where universities should be more diversified?
Well, these students at Yale, they're calling for a greater study of people of different genders and different backgrounds and races. But the ironic thing is, Yale's most popular course last year in the English department was entitled Gender and Race in Literature. So the school is already doing its part to offer students a chance to study authors of different backgrounds. And another ironic point here is guys like Chaucer and Shakespeare, they were oftentimes the most countercultural members of their society. So they were doing so much to push the status quo. And I think these students are misplacing their outrage.
I just,
Feels like it.
But Cabot, it gets to the bigger issue of free speech, does it not? It's like the whole nature of the First Amendment and free speech is allowing room for what makes us uncomfortable. That's free speech. And on the
different conversation.
Right, and on the left, it's like, well, you make me uncomfortable if you talk about Shakespeare, so again, you don't get to talk about it.
Shockingly, there is no freedom from hurt feelings in the Constitution. That's not there. I checked yesterday.
Yeah.
But I don't think these students looked into that enough.
I guess not. Cabot, good to see you. Thanks so much for weighing in. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Cabot Phillips. Next